All systems go. Clear for liftoff.
What is going on, everyone? We are back for a Friday edition of the NBA show. Got Matt in the saddle again here, filling in for, or really just swapping around things for Ham. But yeah, it's a really, really fun slate tonight. Ton of injury news that we'll talk through as we go game by game. Matt, I'll bring you in. How you doing today?
I am good, man. Always better to be here talking some hoops with you. Big shout out to Ham for taking the show for me on Wednesday, going through some back problems over here. So if anyone has gone through that, they can relate. But feeling okay enough to do the show today, and we got a monster slate to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you had the chance to look over everything? Like, what are you looking at the slate from a just the overall slate environment standpoint? How's it looking like to you?
Man, it's looking like one of those slates where this is kind of the nature of an 11-game NBA slate. There's so many good plays. It's difficult to narrow it down, especially for someone that plays limited lineups. I think that it's easier to multi-enter on slates like this just because narrowing it down is so difficult. But that's what this show is for. You know, obviously there's injury news we have to wait for. But I think that there are enough spots that we can narrow down with, and I am hoping you see it the same.
Yeah, for sure. I have a pretty decent feel for how the slate is gonna, or at least how I'm viewing the slate tonight. I think the main thing when it gets to being this many games, you don't really want to get too cute. I think you want to really lean into some of the high confidence plays and spots overall, just from like the injuries and matchups and game environment standpoints. It really try to make it as easy on yourself as you can. But yeah, we'll dive in game by game. So it's up to people quickly in checks. We got to run through this one as we have 11 games here. Got our guy Little Neck, Michael W., Mr. Art Klein, Go Collect, Mr. Mike's Daddy, Scooter McGavin, guy Gangrene, Wins a Lot, Parabay, Coach Sav, and then Jason Turner is in here. What's up, man? All right, we'll jump into the first game on the slate. We have Miami and Orlando. Really good game total, as we know from these Miami games. They're going to play fast. Orlando's picked up the pace a lot this year as well. From the injury side, Tyler Hero is doubtful tonight. Looks like he's going to miss a handful of games, it sounds like, from what I've seen from the beat reporters. And then Norman Powell will be back. Magic are getting Paolo Banchero back tonight. Prices have not really adjusted for life with Banchero back. So makes it a little bit tougher to get to some of these Magic guys, but the game environment is definitely appealing. I think this is one of the games that it kind of feels like one that could be too cute if you're getting deep into, but I think there are a few plays that stand out, but I want to get your thoughts first. How are you attacking this Miami versus Orlando game?
I don't necessarily if I feel like it's too cute. I just don't think that compared to other spots, this game is going to project well at all. Like Orlando is in the better spot, on paper, but man, their price tags are already high. And now you throw Banchero in the mix, their top option. Really hard to get to anything on Orlando, at least as of right now in my eyes. For Miami, Hero being out helps, but I don't think there's any one particular guy on Miami that stands out as far as price tag, points per dollar, anything like that. I think the two guys that look best, I should say, Bam, 7,700 playing well right now, and then Norman Powell, but I don't know if I want to use center equity on Bam here. There's other guys that project better points per dollar. In 3 lineups, man, I don't think I get anything from this game. Am I doing something wrong there?
No, I think I see it the exact same way as you. Bam and Powell are going to be guys that I get to some of in my 150, but I don't really see how you can feel extremely confident about playing 1 or 2 pieces in this game as a whole. If you're building 1 to 3 lineups, I definitely agree with you there. And then the Orlando side, it's the same thing, adding in Paulo, just a guy that is normally going to take away a lot of usage, and then the prices have not really adjusted for life with him. We'd be paying mid 5Ks and probably mid 6Ks for Bane and Suggs. So yeah, I think that you're probably better off just Xing this game out if you're playing 1 to 3 lineups and then moving on. So if you want, we could just move on to the next game, which is one that is a lot more appealing.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, so Lakers at Boston. Obviously, the big news in this one, Luka is welcoming the birth of his second child, so he's out there in Slovenia. And LeBron is dealing with some injuries, mainly just back-to-back related. So those two guys will be out tonight to make this a really good spot for value on the Lakers side, but a really good spot to spend it for Austin Reeves because the numbers just jump off the page for him when you take off Luka and LeBron. He was already playing at an extremely high level with those guys on the court, but now even at 9.5K, he really seems like a guy that is a priority spend on tonight's slate. I'm not really too worried about the matchup. I do think that Boston has the capability of slowing the game down and maybe making it a little bit underwhelming, but he's just going to have such a large usage role and just being able to do everything that he wants on offense. The ball is going to be in his hands. I would be surprised if we look back at the numbers tomorrow and see that he had like over 8 to 9 minutes of touch time in this game. So definitely love Austin Reeves tonight, but then some other guys that should benefit from LeBron being out. DeAndre Ayton hypothetically should be the number 2 option on offense. Nothing really jumps off the page for him from a point per minute standpoint with those guys off the court, but I do think that he is a guy that does have a little bit of upside. I would say the matchup is average to above average. The Celtics are a really good rim defense, but an area they've been really poor at this season. They're dead last in rebounding. So if anything, we can run into a game where he gets like 20 and 15, 16, 17 rebounds, something like that, and he could pay off in a decently big way at what I expect would be really low ownership. And then Rui and Jake LaRavia are 2 guys that I'm definitely looking to. Rui doesn't have the numbers that really jump off either, like DeAndre Ayton, kind of underwhelming from a per minute standpoint. But we have seen in years past, mainly last season, where some games where LeBron would miss, they do ask Rui to do a lot more on offense. I even got to see it firsthand. I sat courtside at a Lakers game against the Blazers last year, where I think Luka and LeBron were out, or they might not even have had Luka at that time. So it might have been Anthony Davis and LeBron were out, and Rui had a really good game there. So I know that they're going to want to use him a lot more, and he's been playing a ton of minutes. I think that we can pencil him in for 33 on the low end and potentially get up to like 36 if the game is close. And then for LaRavia, I think the upside is that he's averaging 33 minutes per game in starts this season, just under 26 DK points. But he's a guy that fills up the stat sheet, so I do think that he has really big upside if things go right. We saw him get up to 45 DK points in one start and then over 30 DK points in the other one. So that's what I'm looking at on the Lakers side. I think Reeves is great. I like LaRavia the second best, and then I'm fine sprinkling some Ayton and Rui. For the Boston stuff, it sounds like I think Jaylen Brown he's off the injury report now, so they'll be fully healthy, which makes it tougher for me to want to get into the Boston stuff. I think you can definitely make the case for Jaylen Brown and Derek White and Peyton Pritchard for that case, because it is a decent matchup. The Lakers aren't great on defense, but I think there's going to be some really, really high fantasy outings tonight in the mid-tier and the upper tier, so I don't think I'm going to be prioritizing anything on Boston. Are you seeing anything differently than me in this game?
No, I see things like actually basically exactly the same. Reeves is a priority play here. Not even priced close to high enough with the role he's going to be in tonight with no Luka or LeBron. So, yeah, I'm in on Reeves. I like your Ayton call. And whenever you like Ayton, I'm in after the last time you liked Ayton and he absolutely smashed. So I can get on board with that. I think LaRavia looks like one of the better points per dollar plays we have right now. Obviously Kelly Olynyk is the best guy there, and there's some other guys that look good, but I think 4,500 LaRavia looks pretty good. And then I like Rui quite a bit here too. Like I'm with you on the, usage bump that if you played this out like for a full season without Luka or LeBron, like his usage and, touch time would be a lot higher than it's shown so far. And I think we see that tonight. I also he hit the game-winning 3 last night. Like, got to be feeling good about himself, not playing him because of that. But I like those good vibes heading into tonight. Obviously, they're even more shorthanded. I like a bunch of the Lakers here. How could you not? I don't want to go overboard because it's such a big slate, but I never mind correlation in NBA. Because if the Lakers play really well here, then I could see a bunch of these guys getting there at their tags.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I was kind of thinking through that a little bit too, because I think there are cases where Reeves can hit and the game is not necessarily really close or even high scoring. So I don't really know if I want to force one of that, but it might be on the other side. Like if you do play some Jaylen Brown or Derek White or Pritchard, then maybe adding in like a Rui or a Reeves or an Aiden makes a little bit of sense, because I don't know if I think those guys are great one-off plays, where I think Reeves is probably the best spend-up option on the entire slate. So I definitely agree with you there about the correlation aspect of it. Yeah, I think that was probably the first NBA game I've been to in 3 or 4 years. Don't really get to go to a lot, but was invited, so I had to go to it.
NBA games are always fun.
Great time, yeah. I like, actually don't mind. I'm not a huge Lakers or definitely not a Clippers fan, but the Lakers, I like going to Lakers games. They're always a good time there. All right, next game on the slate, Portland at Detroit, another game with a pretty solid total. Let me pull up my notes for this one. Injuries on this one: Donovan Clingan questionable, Chris Murray questionable, and I think Robert Williams is still questionable unless they've put out a new injury report. I just want to check that really quick. Yeah, nothing's changed there. Okay, they haven't reported anything for the injury stuff yet, so I'm just assuming those guys are still questionable. And then for Detroit, Duncan Robinson is questionable again. Doesn't really change too much, and probably seeing Dennis Jenkins slide into starting lineup again, but I don't really think that you need to prioritize any of the value plays on that side. Blazers have toned down their pace as of late. I think it's just because they've been playing so many games in such a short time and really running up the minutes for some of these guys. But beginning of the season, they were playing at a lightning fast pace. So they're really dipping from the pace perspective, and then the defense is getting a lot worse. The on-ball defense has been an area that has been a spot that you want to attack with no Drew Holiday. I think it's a little bit different tonight. But yeah, I mean, this team has given up a ton of transition points. And for Detroit, I mean, they're playing really good on defense. So it's not really a spot I love picking on, but I do think that there is some upside in this game. I'll let you kick this one off since I took the reins in the last one, but what are you looking at in this game?
So I think this game looks better than the last one, but I don't think there's this is another game where I think it looks better, but I don't think there are smash plays in this game. I don't think there's guys right now that have to be in core plays. I think Denny certainly can be. He's just playing so well right now. Nice positional eligibility too for him tonight with the point guard edition. You might not be playing him at point guard, but just the ability to play him at the guard spot, really nice. So Denny's going to be the top piece of Portland, like always. I see that similarly here. Shaedon Sharpe has looked good recently, so I think he looks like the second best piece. After that, I don't know. I mean, Jeremy Grant, sure. Clingan, a lot of opportunity cost at center. I don't love Portland here. I do think the Detroit side certainly looks better. Higher price tags outside of the Denny tag. Cade, again, kind of like Denny, always in play. I could see playing Cade and Denny here and running that correlation. I don't necessarily know or think I'm going to do that, but I could definitely see that getting there. Both guys in a close competitive game. I know you talk about this, especially on an 11-game slate, you get one outlier game that goes OT, double OT. You're in a really good spot if you've got the two studs from that game. I think Jalen Duren projects well at 7,700. One of the better center options. It's tough because Olynyk, for me, is going to eat up one of those spots. So, is Duren a must for me? No, but I think he's definitely in play. Outside of that, it's really 2 and 2 for me. It's Sharpe and Denny, and then Duren and Cade for me. Not seeing a ton else. I don't love the secondary pieces in this game. You seeing it differently?
No, I'm pretty much in line with you there. I think that Denny is kind of always in play just because he's had such a massive role with Drew and all these guys being out. And then you add on, if Clingan does miss, it's been kind of weird with the injury stuff with Clingan because he played and then missed a week with the illness and then came back and was questionable with the leg injury. Now he's questionable again. So got to wonder how healthy he actually is. But taking him off the court really does a lot for Denny from a rebounding perspective because you see the game against OKC, he had 19 rebounds in that game, a triple-double. So
That was insane.
Yeah, I mean, he's a stud. He's really good. So I would definitely have interest in him. And then Shaden Sharp, to me, becomes one of the top mid-tier options if you take Klingon off the court, because there's just a lot more offense and usage to go around. And he, like you said, he's playing really well right now. Looks like he's put the injury behind him, played like 32 minutes in a back-to-back where we were kind of expecting him to miss. So really good to see Shaden Sharp playing more. And I think that if the game is close and it's not Denny doing it, it's got to be one of him or Jeremy Grant. I think that both those guys kind of have a little bit of upside just with the way that Detroit plays defense, where they do allow some off-ball scoring. But Shaden Sharp is just like a really, really high usage guy that can get it done in any matchup. So I like him. Just echoing what you said there. I don't think that the secondary guys are really too much in play. Toumani Camara has been playing really well lately. I see him getting a little bit of ownership. I don't really think that I want to or will need to go there. And the Pistons side, I agree with you on Cade and Duren. I think the matchup on paper, I don't know if people are really going to look into this too much, but like you look at like DVP numbers and just like pick and roll numbers and all that on-ball stats defensively for the Portland, and you would say it's a good matchup, but it's a little different because Toumani Camara is a really, really good defender. I think that he's going to be the guy that's defending Cade tonight, which could open up some stuff for these other guys. So I kind of like a Sar a little bit. Oh, go ahead.
No, sorry, I was just agreeing.
Yeah. I kind of like Asar a little bit played away from Denny, because I think that the downside for Asar not reaching a minute ceiling is that Denny draws a lot of fouls, because he's been doing a really good job at drawing fouls lately. Just the drive stats and the foul drawing stats are all way up over the last month or so. So I'd be careful playing Asar with Denny, because I do think that he's going to be the guy that's defending him. But Asar kind of has a good bit going for him here. The Trailblazers' transition defense has been really struggling, so that's kind of what I like to see when firing up either one of the Thompson twins, but definitely Asar, because his scoring comes a lot in those transition outings. So I'd be looking to him a little bit.
Yeah, one thing about your Shaden Sharp, just you kind of extended on what I was saying about how this is potentially a good matchup for him. They play twice a year. He had one mediocre game against Detroit last year, but in Detroit, he had 49 fantasy points.
Yeah.
So we'll take that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really good price tag for him. I think that he's trending up in the right direction right now. So
I love his game too.
Yeah, he's a hooper. He's so athletic too. It's crazy.
Hooper is just the best word to describe him.
Yeah, just a bucket getter. All right. Next game, we got to speed up a little bit. Let me see how we're doing on time. 17 minutes. We're doing all right. All right, so we got Denver and Atlanta. Close spread here. So that would, to me, indicates that we're going to get Jalen Johnson and Kristaps returning tonight. I believe they both were at shoot-around, so they have probably a 75% chance of playing. Jalen, I would imagine, was more injury maintenance related because he's been playing so many minutes. But it is a calf injury for him, so it's always one you want to be careful with, because there's so many calf strains in the NBA right now. So you definitely got to be careful with that, because we know that what that can turn into. The Nuggets, pretty healthy for the most part. Obviously, nothing new with the Aaron Gordon and Christian Braun missing, or Brown. But Spencer Jones is questionable. He's been a main rotation piece for them lately. So that might open up a little bit more for like a Tim Hardaway Jr., but not really too much. I think this game does have some sneaky shootout potential. Nuggets have been elite on offense this season. They're first in NBA in points per possession. But over the last 2 weeks, they're really struggling on defense. They're second worst in defensive points per possession. And then Atlanta, we know, can play a lot better when Jalen Johnson is healthy. So him being out there, I think, is really important for the game environment as a whole, because I think that systemically they could really struggle like we saw them last game, which I kind of wish I didn't overlook as much, because somebody did mention in Discord just like the risk of Atlanta really playing poorly without Jalen Johnson. It
reminds me of a spot last year when like Dallas was missing all their guys and like all their players who were in looked so good, but they just like couldn't do anything.
Yeah, you got to definitely look at it from a holistic standpoint a little bit more, just how the team's going to play without these guys. But Jalen should be back tonight. I'd imagine he's close to full, so should be a game that stays close, which I think gets you onto Jokic a little bit. He's sub 13K now, which means we don't need 80 plus from him. We more so need like 75 plus, which is definitely doable. See him projected at 64, which feels like a median projection for him. I would say on a normal night where he's playing 36, 38, he's probably getting above 70. And it's a good matchup. The Hawks are a really bad rebounding team, bottom four this season in rebounding. and a slightly below average rim defense. I don't think Kristaps returning changes too much because I would imagine he's pretty limited. We've seen him return off these illness tags before in the past and be playing like 18 to 20 minutes. So I would imagine it's somewhere around there, maybe 25 on the high end. But Jokic is just one game removed from a 20 rebound performance. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Jokic come in and drop 80 plus on Atlanta tonight in a game where we just saw Jamal Murray be the guy that went off the night before. So I could see it swinging back in Jokic's favor. I think Murray is okay. He's playing as good as he ever has this early in the season, but it's a really tough matchup against Dyson Daniels. So I'm going to be off of Jamal Murray tonight. I think there's some really good point guard options as a whole on the slate, but especially in that low 9K range that I like more than him. And then the appeal for guys like Cam Johnson and Peyton Watson is that they're playing a ton of minutes and could theoretically see some more open looks with Jokic and Murray getting all the defensive attention. I do like Cam Johnson a little bit more just because I think that he's got, well, maybe not better ceiling, but definitely better scoring upside. Don't mind Peyton Watson at all, though. And then Atlanta, I think, is going to be closer to a cross-off for me. I think you can make the case for Jalen Johnson because he's a stud, but returning from the calf injury, I don't know. I think I'd probably look elsewhere as a spend up. How are you viewing this game? I think it's a decent game environment as a whole.
I do think it's a decent game environment from a 30,000-foot view. I want to like this game. And I think that, game stacking a game like this in play because two good teams, close spread, good players. Obviously, the problem is just the price tags. Like, I obviously would want to play Jokic with Jalen, and that's, you're allocating like almost $25K for those two guys. You're not playing Reeves at that point, and then you're, struggling to get any other really good plays in that lineup. So it could get there, but, you're paying full freight for it. So at the end of the day, I do think this game comes down to Jokic or bust for me. Jamal too expensive at 9K, like with Jokic in, just other better plays, cheaper than him. So I'm a Jamal fan, but not here at that tag. And I want to like Jalen, but again, a little bit annoyed with the calf injury. I will say though, if he plays tonight, I do think it was just a rest situation because I don't think they would be rushing him back at all. He's clearly their franchise guy. So it's I think Jalen Johnson's a good tournament play, but Jokic is, obviously the best play in this game. Not a must on this slate. There are other good centers, but there is, decent value right now, and we could only get more of it. So the more value that comes, he's finally under 13K. I do think this sets up as a really good spot for him. So certainly he's on my bingo card here. Not a must. I'm playing 3 lineups here. If I were making them right now, I would probably have Jokic in one of them.
Yeah, I think it's a perfect way to put it. Definitely agree there that the value could get better. It looks like it'd probably come more so at the center position, if anything, which makes it a little tougher because, yeah, like Jokic obviously only being center eligible changes things. But, I mean, this Spurs and Cleveland game is the one. Go ahead.
No, the other problem, and I'm just thinking about this out loud, with Jokic and the value we have right now, the value guys we have right now are pretty, clear. So it's Olynyk, Jeremy Sohan, Laravia. If all Jokic lineups are going to have those 3 guys and it's just a 4 for 4 after that, I'm not interested. We need some more value.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Charlotte at Toronto. Pretty clean injury from both sides here, outside of the RJ Barrett stuff, which we've already had. But Colin Sexton going to be out for Charlotte, open up a little bit of guard minutes. Trey Mann is doubtful, which he's missed quite some time, but Brandon Miller is probable, so he'll be back tonight. Jakob Poeltl very likely to be back tonight if he has not already been ruled in. And then Kalkbrenner, I believe, made shoot around, so good chance that he's going to be playing tonight. I don't know if they're going to keep him off the bench. I feel like it was more matchup related against Cat that they did that. But this game, I don't love too much. I think that there's a case to be made for Scotty Barnes because we're starting to see that tournament winning upside from him. And I don't really think there's anybody on the Hornets side that could really slow him down. The rim defense for Charlotte has been quite bad this year, which is expected. Just a team that is kind of lacking a lot of good defenders and a lot of talent behind some of these guys. So I think Barnes is the guy to look for on Toronto if choosing one. I'm seeing Shed projecting really well, and he's getting a good amount of ownership, just kind of slate dependent. I don't really think I'd want to get super deep into Jamal Shed as a chalk play because there's nothing really changing about him that we haven't seen in the past week or so since RJ Barrett's been out. He's going to play low 20 minutes. He's still going to be losing touches to Manu Quickly, Scotty Barnes, and Brandon Ingram. So even when he's out there, he's not the first option. Pretty good shooter, and he's had some really crazy potential assist numbers early in the season. But I think they're really leaning into the Barnes, Ingram, Quickly stuff now with Barrett out. So I wouldn't really be excited about touting Jamal Shed tonight. Therefore, but like if you need him at 3.5K, then he's fine because he's probably the best option down there. But I'd rather find ways to get away from it because you are giving up a pretty valuable spot at point guard. And then the Charlotte stuff with Miller back, it kind of takes everybody out of consideration. I think the LaMelo Ball 37-minute game was a one-off, and they're probably going to be capping him at like 32 on the high end, but probably even 30 more so moving forward. I think it was kind of him playing really well and then being without Colin Sexton and Trey Mann and Brandon Miller that led to that. So I wouldn't expect 30-plus minutes from him on a regular basis. Anything you like in this game, or is it a kind of an X out and move on?
It's more of an X out and move on, but I will say, like, I don't think Shed as of right now is a bad play. I also, like, if he is going to get ownership, I'm totally with you. But, like, 12% owned, I'm fine with it. Like, it does kind of fall into, like, another guy that's probably going to be in Jokic lineups, though. So,
Yeah.
like, and that's probably the only time you really need him. So, like, just talking this out, like, I probably won't play him because of that. But I do think there's blowout concerns in this game, so maybe a couple more minutes for Shed here. It's obviously a really good spot. Like, yeah, I'm not excited about playing him, but, you know, it's just a price play at the end of the day. Other than that, I don't see anything from this game that is going to be a priority for me or that I'll even likely play.
Yeah, the blowout stuff is actually kind of intriguing too, because I do think that there's a better chance that Toronto wins this game handedly, and I'm looking at like who they would have out there in blowout. It'd probably be Shed. I would imagine it's some combination of Shed, Walter, Colin Murray Boyles, Grady Dick, and Jameson Battle. Maybe they get Mobo in there. I don't think they're going to really want to play Garrett Temple. So yeah, he
it would have to be a crazy blowout to get Temple run.
Yeah. So he might be out there for blowout, but it's kind of still like this is not a double-digit spread, so it's Vegas is expecting to stay closer than to be a blowout. So I would probably lean away from that personally on the Jamal Shed stuff. But like Matt said, if you want to get the Jokic builds and he allows for that, then he makes a lot of sense. Next game, my Utah Jazz heading over to the Knicks. Our guy Scooter McGavin going to be boots on the ground at this game. I think this is another game that kind of feels closer to an X out than anything, especially on the Utah side. I feel like Yusuf Nurkic is probably closer to doubtful than he is questionable, but they will be getting Kevin Love back, which is not crazy from like a minute standpoint. He's not playing 25-plus minutes probably ever again in his career, but that is another body that they didn't have last night. Also, a back-to-back, they didn't have to travel, obviously, because this game is in New York. I think that if you're playing any of Laurie or Keontae, you got to pair him with a Cat or a Brunson or Bridges. Maybe hard, but probably not with OG probably back for this game. I just don't see this game staying close with the Knicks being implied for 127 plus points and the Jazz not scoring a ton of points. I feel like that's the way that it stays close. So if you're playing any of Laurie or Keontae, I would pair them up with one person on the other side. I don't think these guys are very much in play in single entry at all, and I probably feel the same way about the Knicks stuff. You can make the case for Cat and Brunson because it's a great matchup, but they're not cheap. And same thing for Hart now with OG back, kind of takes him out of play. I think Bridges is probably the best option if OG does play because 6.5K for a guy that can spike for steals with the Jazz having one of the worst turnover percentages in the league. They're really bad against guards, especially guys that play more off ball. Bridges could definitely hit for a couple, 4 or 5 threes and hit value pretty quickly. So he'd be my favorite play, but I don't really love too much. I don't think I'll have anything in this game in single entry. What about you?
Yeah, the two guys that I like best are the 2 point guards, like Brunson's tag at 8,800. Sure. Like, not a must for me, but like he could smash that tag in this matchup. And then Keontae George is approaching just in play on any given slate right now for me. I mean, he's just a baller. I've liked him for, since his Baylor days, but he's just playing really, really well this year. So it's nothing to do with the spot or the tag looks amazing, but he's just underpriced for his production this year. So, is he going to be a core play for me? No. Will I be upset if I get to him? No.
Yeah, good point. Keontae is playing great right now. I think the Jazz have found their point guard for the future, and he's looking like he's on his way to becoming a star in the league. I mean, he's crushing it this year. I think he's top 30 in points per game, top 10 in assists per game, so he's looking really good right now. What's up, Sean? Haven't seen you in a while. Missed you in the NBA chat. Hope all is well. When it comes to things like that, like, first of all, I don't think Clarkson's going to be out there for blowout. I mean, he's upper 30 now. They're not going to be playing him 10 minutes in a blowout. But also, when you are talking about a slate this big and you're trying to make cases for guys that are playing in blowout, I honestly personally think you're playing it wrong. Like, it's different for a guy like Jamal Shed, but like,
right,
making a case,
already going to get run.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, you can't get much wrong on the slate. Like, your entire roster needs to be filled up with high confidence plays, and then maybe one or two guys that are like pivots or your low owned option.
Yeah, the point I was making with Shed was just like, I think he looks okay as is. Like, and then if there's blowout run, he might get a couple more minutes. Like, not like looking to play him, and he'll really only get there in a blowout, which isn't the case for Clarkson either. But I think that was kind of how the question was intended.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so this is the game with, I would say, the most, or at least the second most important injury news in the slate. San Antonio Spurs heading into Cleveland as 5-ish point underdogs here. We have an out tags on obviously Wemby and Stephon Castle still, but they will be without Luke Cornett tonight to slide somebody into the starting lineup. There's a couple ways it could go. I think that probably the most obvious choice would be, I don't know if it is Kelly Olynyk. It might be Jeremy Sochan. They've been running him more as the backup center as of late. So I feel like there's probably a 70%, maybe 60% chance it's Sochan, 30% chance it's Kelly Olynyk, maybe 35% chance it's Olynyk, and then maybe a 5% chance it's something weird like Bismack Biyombo. They've done stuff like that in the past. I still feel like it's Sochan and Kelly Olynyk splitting the center minutes the most. I'll let you break that down, but we do have also a really big Q tag midday downgrade on Evan Mobley with the illness, which guys missing shoot around with an illness, I feel like is leaning more towards the doubtful side of things. So how would you approach this game if Sochan were to be starting? Would that change your outlook on Olynyk at all?
Yeah, I think it has to change your outlook, like especially with someone like Olynyk, but still going to play him at 3,200. Like, I'll play both of them together. I'd feel better about it if it's Olynyk starting and Sochan coming off the bench. Like, but I'll still play both of them regardless, I think. I do think that Olynyk becomes risky and thinner than obviously he otherwise would be on a massive slate, depending on what other value comes. I think Sochan at 3,400 with power forward eligibility is the lock no matter what. Olynyk, if he's starting, is a guy I'll play, in all three of my lineups. If he's not, again, I'll still play them both together, but I won't play 100% Olynyk. Is that how you see it?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. If Olynyk's off the bench, it's just a little scary because the minutes have been down in a really big way as of late. I think that they would have to play him like 18 minutes, which would be totally fine for somebody that's a good permanent producer like Kelly Olynyk. But if he's starting and we're getting like a projected 21, 22 minutes from him, he's great because we're still getting backup run from Sochan and some overlap between the two. So I would prefer Olynyk starting, and then I would just feel very confident about playing Sochan and Olynyk in a lot of lineups together. So to answer Coach Sav's question, it's dependent on – I think it's fine regardless to play them, even if Sochan's starting, but totally fine if Kelly Olynyk is starting.
Yeah, I like it way more if Olynyk is starting just because, man, the center spot, like you kind of mentioned it a couple minutes ago when we got that Clarkson question. You need to nut everything on this slate, certainly to like take it down. So like there are multiple mid-tier centers that are going to smash tonight. Like Ayton, for example, all of a sudden, like if you play Olynyk off the bench and he plays 15 minutes and gets you like 15 fantasy points, that's not the worst points per dollar score, but you're almost drawing dead there when a guy like Ayton or Duran go for 50 plus. So, yeah, I'll feel a lot better about it if Olynyk's starting, which I don't think he is either. So, not exactly sure how I'm going to play it right now. Like, he still is 3,200, but yeah, it makes the waters a little more murky.
Yeah, I could see it now where Olynyk maybe doesn't play the first quarter, then plays like a 6-minute rotation in each, like the second and the fourth or something like that. And they somehow run out Bismack for like 5 or 6 minutes.
Well, also like Cleveland, if they're missing Mobley here, like they already know Allen, like they could run real small. So like that might change, like it just might change everything, especially because Sohan is already a small center. So this game might just play small.
Yeah, that's a good point, because if Mobley is out, I don't think that we're all of a sudden getting like 20 plus minutes from Thomas Bryant, because they haven't really shown a willingness to play him a lot this season. So it'd probably be
Tomlin,
Tomlin,
Bryant.
Dean Wade.
Yes, same. Right there with you, man.
Yeah, so that would be really good for Sochan. So I guess you really got to pay attention to that, because it does matter who's starting for the Spurs. The more that we talk through it, I would be a little bit more worried if Olynyk is off the bench and it's Sochan starting.
You know, the other part of this is like Olynyk's going to be one of, if not the highest home player on the slate. Yeah. So like there's someone to be said for getting away from that. Certainly if he's not starting, and his ownership will come down, but probably not as much as it should.
Yeah, for sure. I'd see people being slow to react there, because you are like, this is the second lock time of the slate. So you could already be locked into, probably not locked into too many spots, because it's just Lakers, Boston, Miami, Orlando first, but people might be a little more unwilling to move off of Olynyk just because it's going to change your entire roster construction.
Totally. Good point, man. Good point. Like there isn't a guy to pivot to off Olynyk. So people are much more likely, like people are not likely to late swap to begin with. But as far as late swapping goes, they're much more likely to make 1-for-1 swaps than they are like reconstructing their entire lineup. Great point.
Yeah. You pulled that out of me. I wasn't even thinking about that. So I think it's a good point that you made. Just the game environment could really, there's a couple ways that it could go. So I guess we can talk about the Cleveland stuff now. Feels like Mobley is closer to the doubtful side. Like I mentioned, the illness tag midday downgrade is never a good thing. So, we're probably going to expect a really, really heavy dosage of Donovan Mitchell. They got no offense to your Cavs, but they are asking a lot of Donovan Mitchell this season. It's Darius Garland sitting out games. This guy's not old, but he's missing so many games back-to-backs, and Donovan's out there putting his life on the line. Like it reminds me a lot of his Jazz days when they didn't really give him a ton of help.
Yeah, it's funny too, because like this team has a lot of talent, but they seem complacent. They came into the season wanting to make Mobley like the number one option. 6 games in, they fell off of that. Garland, and I'm hearing here, like he's just never going to be fully healthy. So that stinks. Obviously, they're missing Strus. Jalen Tyson, second-year guy, called out the Cavs in a major way after, I don't know if it was their last loss to Toronto, and they ended up playing well against Indiana the next game, but then lost to Portland at home. This team's inconsistent, but, the other side of the coin is they started off so hot last year and fizzled in the playoffs. Maybe this is what they needed. I don't think this team is, like, as constructed, good enough to win a title, or even, I don't know if they're good enough to make it out of the East right now, but certainly Donovan Mitchell's played like a top 10 player in the game. And with Mobley out here in what should be a competitive game, I don't think he looks as good as Reeves, which sounds weird to say, but I think he looks close enough where he's like a top 5 play on the slate, especially if Mobley's out.
Yeah, I totally agree there. The numbers they get really nutty for Donovan Mitchell when you take off all these guys off the court. Like literally it's Jokic, Wemby, Giannis levels of per minute production, albeit in a small sample, sub 100 minutes. But the fantasy point per minute numbers are literally at 1.92 fantasy points per minute. Like the assist numbers are way up there. I think it's 38% assists, 40% usage rate. So it's not surprising to see him have a massive role with those guys out, because he has to literally do everything. But I also don't think that he's going to be a 1.9 fantasy point per minute producer, but probably more in like the 1.5, 1.6 range, which is really good for his price tag. I would say the one thing that really stinks on this slate is I agree with you, like he's not as good as Reeves, but he's not very far off. Like I'd want to play him and Reeves as my two guards, but they're both only shooting guard eligible now, which is, it's not bad, but it's not great either.
Yeah, it stinks as far as roster construction goes. Maybe it limits the ownership of both of them together, which is why I still likely will play them together. But honestly, just like talking this out a little with you, I like this game a lot, especially if a Mobley is out perspective. San Antonio, kind of going off what we just said with the Olynyk, Sohan. If Olynyk doesn't get more run, maybe this game plays small. I think it benefits like all the San Antonio guys who have good tags. Keldon Johnson at 5,100, Dylan Harper 4,700, like Devin Vassell, who I hate right now because that swap cost me massively the other night, but still 5,900 for Vassell, like De'Aaron Fox. I like this game. And then obviously everyone on Cleveland is going to become more in play with Mobley out. Mitchell, we talked about. I think the next guy is honestly Jalen Tyson. Like I really like what I've seen from him this year. He does a little bit of everything. Really good position eligibility, shooting guard, small forward. The price tag is up there, but he's so much of an unknown that I don't even know if he's like overpriced. He might be underpriced. He might be fairly priced. But if Mobley's out in this spot, I want him.
I agree 100%. He looks really good just as an overall NBA player. It looks like, I feel like he's playing beyond his experience level right now, just playing really well. Kenny Atkinson loves him too. So I think he's going to play him a ton of minutes regardless. And you take away the rebounding upside of Mobley, it's got to go to somebody. I feel like he takes a lot of that. Obviously, Hunter would be a guy that would benefit. You're probably get into at least two of these Cleveland guys when Mobley gets ruled out. So I definitely like a lot of them. Like even Naquan Tomlin comes into play. Obviously, Craig Porter Jr. is going to be asked to do a lot, and we've seen what he can do in the minutes that he provides. So it's a really, really good spot. I guess I want to talk through the groups real quick because I think it does matter for the Cleveland stuff. I doubt we get a ton of overlap between the Mitchell, Lonzo, and Craig Porter Jr. grouping. So I would say max 2 of those 3 if you want to be more aggressive, and be max 1, Craig Porter Jr. and Lonzo. I wouldn't hate that, but we have seen Lonzo can touch 30 minutes when things go right for him. So I don't know if I would set that rule. Probably be max 2 mostly. And then probably max 2 of the Hunter, Tyson, Tomlin, Dean Wade grouping. If you add in Thomas Bryant, I don't know if he's really in play unless he's starting, then I would throw him in there as well. And then the Spurs stuff I kind of glossed over because we did spend some time on the value plays. But I agree with you. I'm a little bit less intrigued about Vassell, but I do like De'Aaron Fox. Just imagine that the matchup can only get a lot better as Evan Mobley misses this game. The rim protection is going to get a lot worse. Drive heavy guard, guy that's been pretty solid from a permanent basis with all these guys off the court this season. So he looks like a guy that has some unknown upside at really low ownership. So I'd be fine getting to some of him. Then I also think these wings are kind of interesting. The Keldon, Harrison Barnes, and Champagnie grouping. Champagnie is a guy that also kind of profiles as like a Jalen Tyson light in some ways. He's a guy that just will randomly hit for double-doubles, and I think that taking a guy like Luke Cornett off the court really could help him from a rebounding perspective. The usage does trend up in a pretty decent way, fantasy point per minute around 1.1, and definitely should see close to 30 minutes. So I think he's kind of sneaky as a mid-tier value, low-owned option. And then if we knew Dylan Harper was getting 25 minutes tonight, which I don't think he is because they said he's not in NBA shape right now, then I think he'd be a really, really good option because he's an absolute stud in the making. So yeah,
might be too thin on this slate, though, to your point.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, really, really good game to get deep into. So definitely like this one. Going to be one you wait for the value plays and the injury to see who's in and who's out. Another game with pretty big injury implications is the Phoenix Suns at Houston. Really big injuries on both sides, actually, with Devin Booker out for, I believe they said 1 to 2 weeks. So we should see Grayson Allen back into the starting lineup. Colin Gillespie starting at point guard now. Been playing great this season. Definitely have some interest in him. And then Alperen Sengun was a midday downgrade as well with an illness tag. So another guy we can kind of expect to miss. I think that this is a spot where I can see myself getting to a good amount of Houston because all these guys would be really underpriced if Sengun were to miss. So I think there's a lot to like here. And then I feel like there's a little bit of sneaky upside. The game total is one of the most unappealing ones on the slate, but when you take away guys like Booker and Sengun, where there's a lot of fantasy points, a lot of usage to go around, it makes it a lot more appealing. I don't think people want to pay nearly $7K for Colin Gillespie, but I'd be okay with it. I think he's been really, really good this season. It was Royce O'Neal that led the team in the potential assists last game, but I feel like the more we see from this team with Booker out, the more it's going to trend in Gillespie's favor. So I like him the most. I think Brooks is a low-owned option. Revenge game for him. He's had crazy usage numbers and taken a million shots this season. So he'd be a guy that you should feel fine getting to, but that's probably it. I think it's just those two for Phoenix. On the Houston side is where it gets really interesting, though. I think KD and Amen would be very good options. KD with the dual positional eligibility now, point guard, small forward. Amen, a guy that was great last season without Sengun, and then even guys like Jabari Smith, Reed Shepard, Steven Adams, and even Clint Capella at 3.6K. All these guys would look really good. I feel like Steven Adams becomes the best value play on the slate at 4K, center eligible only, but he's a really good permanent producer and probably playing 25 plus minutes, I would imagine. So I'd want a lot of Steven Adams. And then I really like everything on Houston, honestly, once Sengun gets rolled out. How are you looking at this game?
Yeah, very similarly, especially because, like, we already don't have Tari Eason. So, like, they're thin there. I agree with you on Steven Adams, but it just makes all of Houston look really good. From KD, Amen, KD, Jabari, the big men obviously are going to look the best. KD does a little bit of everything. It's just tough because, like, KD at 8,100 will be underpriced for sure. But we've already talked about, like, Reeves and Mitchell, who we like a lot. Those guys aren't cheap. Roster construction is going to be interesting tonight. I can tell you right now, I'm probably out on Jokic just from talking this out with you. I think there's just too many good plays in the mid to high end tonight that I don't really want to allocate those funds on Jokic, at least as of right now. And those good plays include guys like KD. I think Amen Thompson would get like everyone on Houston would get a bump. So I'm in on Houston, would like a lot of them. All of them would be in play because they're just too cheap for Sengun being out. From the Phoenix side, probably less excited about playing Gillespie at 7K than you are, but I get it. No one's going to want to play him, so that makes sense. I think I'm most in on Brooks. You talked about the usage. I like him going back to Houston here. I don't think there's anyone that's a must from Houston, even with Booker out, because the tags look fair. Like 6K for Royce O'Neal. I don't think that's ever a bargain. 7K for Gillespie. They had time to price up Phoenix, whereas a team like Houston, if Sengun is out, obviously they're not priced accordingly. So I think Houston looks a lot better than Phoenix, with Booker being my favorite piece of the Suns.
Yep. Could not agree more with you there. I would be cautious about doing that. I mean, you're tying up pretty much 60% of your salary between three guys. I don't think that's the way you want to go tonight. This is not a slate where we have a bunch of min-price point guards and centers that are slam dunk value plays. So I don't know if I would suggest doing that. I looked at I don't think the Spurs projections are correct right now. We're going to run an updated projection as we get off the show, more than likely. All right. Do you want to do a quick ranking of your Houston? Because it feels like a spot that's going to be unavoidable once we get the Sengun news.
Yeah. So I think as of right now, again, I'd want to wait. This isn't anything set in stone. I'd want to wait for projections and stuff to like allocate. But I think Adams, to your point, like 4K, big minutes bump would be my favorite, just because he'd probably be the easiest to get to, even at center. I think KD would be my second favorite. Really good position eligibility. Can play him at 5 different spots. Good tag. I think then Jabari, just because I think he gets a bump, just more rebounding equity, more scoring, like everything. Then Amen, then Shepard, then everyone else. How about you?
Yeah, definitely. Steven Adams kind of on an island, so I won't really group him into that. But I think for me, I would have it KD as well as number 1, Amen number 2, and then I would say, kind of the same thing. I think Jabari and Reed are, I would say, neck and neck for that third spot. We should get Reed starting again, which is pretty interesting. He came off the bench last time out, but I feel like that was more matchup based. I feel like he's back in the starting lineup. I mean, all these guys see pretty meaningful boosts. You got to take it with a little bit of a grain of salt because it could either be a really small minute sample for a guy like KD or a different scenario for a guy like Reed Shepherd, where a lot of his production last year or the last 2 years kind of come with the blowout concern, or with games where he's playing a lot of minutes due to blowouts. So I wouldn't be reading too much into it, but all these guys are going to look really good. I definitely agree with you. KD 1, Amen 2, Jabari Reed 3. All right, next game. Philly at Milwaukee. 2 big injury tags in this one with the Embiid stuff. Embiid's going to be out again, just injury maintenance. Paul George will be back. And then Giannis obviously out for the next 2 to 4 weeks. So we'll have to see what Doc Rivers decides to do with the starting lineup. Another game or a team where there's a few ways they could go. We did see Jericho Sims fill in a really big way, which kind of came out of nowhere. I don't know if they'll necessarily need him in this spot in particular because they're not really going up against like a elite center on the other side, and they don't really need a ton of size. You're kind of shrinking the floor, adding him out there with a guy that really is just like a pick and roll dunker guy. So I think that they probably go back to Kuzma or Bobby Portis at the power forward spot. If it's Portis, I'd have some interest because we know what he can do. But I don't think I really want to get to Kuzma. That's probably bite me at the end of the slate because we've seen what he can do when nobody plays him. But obviously there's a ton of usage to go around for the Milwaukee stuff. I think it's pretty clearly Ryan Rollins and Kevin Porter Jr. as the 2 best options. I think KPJ is he might be one of the best point per dollar plays in the entire slate. Really quick ramp up from the knee injury that held him out for like a month, but he's always been a guy that's really good from a point per minute standpoint. You look at the numbers, it's a little different situation for Ryan Rollins because a lot of his games without Giannis also came without KPJ, and adding KPJ back, a guy that can take away some usage, a guy that does a lot of similar things that Ryan Rollins does on offense, could take away from them. But I mean, the role was essentially split down the middle between those 2 guys last game. So we know that the offense is going to run through them. Ryan Rollins had a 6.4 minutes of touch time to KPJ's 6 minutes. Both had 16 potential assists. KPJ is the slightly better per minute player, but that's a smaller sample. So I think it's, if anything, close to even. But you are getting a $1,300 discount spending down for KPJ. So I prefer him over Ryan Rollins, but I'm fine with both these guys. Don't think you need to set a rule to be max one because I could see both them getting there, but I think it's KPJ kind of clearing away the number 1 option there for Milwaukee. Philly, I don't see anything as a priority right now. Obviously love Tyrese Maxey. It's a good matchup, but he's almost 11K, so we're going to need 60 plus from him, which he's done, but there's some really good point guard options. I don't think that you need to go to Maxey tonight. What are you thinking about this game?
Yeah, I mean, from the jump, it's obviously KPJ. Looks like, I mean, he's going to be owned as the best play on the slate. I'm seeing him coming in as the highest owned player on the entire slate. Doesn't give me the warm and fuzzies to be quite frank, but projects for 40 plus across the industry at 6,600. So I get it. There's like term expansive and restrictive chalk. Like, I wouldn't say he's restrictive, but he's certainly not expansive at 6,600 on this big of a slate. Like, if he's really going to be 60 to 70% owned, like, again, that doesn't give me the warm and fuzzies. But I don't think there's like guys in his range that like project nearly as well as him. So I don't think it's a simple case of like, I'm just going to pivot off him. I think there are certainly ways to build good lineups without him in it and different type of roster constructions. But if I were playing only one lineup right now, I'd have a hard time not playing him. Rollins not as interested in because he's 1,300 more. And to your point, like, he was playing so well without KPJ. So I think KPJ is the lead dog there. You're obviously going to get a big ownership discount, but you should be. So, yeah, it's KPJ for me. And then if Portis is starting, Portis. But if he's not, probably just KPJ. I do think Portis is cheap enough where off the bench he's still in play. But if he's starting, he's a smash for me here. That's kind of it. I don't really like the Philly side, even though I think I think this game's competitive. I don't think Philly plays bad here. I just think the tags are where they should be. You talked about it with Maxey. So really, as of like this moment, it's probably KPJ or bust for me, maybe Portis.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. I think that the main appeal for playing a guy like Ryan Rollins would be the ownership. I mean, 40%, like you said, on KPJ versus 5-ish on Ryan Rollins. Like we've seen him have pretty big upside, but you are paying the $1,300 more.
Rollins is a great 150 play.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think like we said, I don't think you need to max one them because I think that there's probably an outside chance that both of them could get there.
It's just the tags, man. Like
yeah.
It's just hard on this slate. Like I agree with you. I don't think there's a reason you have to set a rule. I just can't imagine you would get to that many together just because I don't know how good Rollins himself looks.
Yeah. It just makes so much more sense. Like we said with Donovan Mitchell and Austin Reeves being the two clear best guard options tonight, I would say KPJ up there as well. But like it's really easy to go KPJ point guard, Reeves shooting guard, and then Donovan Mitchell at guard. Like that feels like a pretty strong starting point, and then filling in the value wherever else you need to. All right, next game, got 2 left, approaching an hour. This one shouldn't take very long though. Clippers at Memphis. I think that this one is one of the least appealing ones on the slate. Clippers obviously got the win in Atlanta. I still think that this is a very bad team, very poorly constructed roster that is not very good on defense, and they're just old. And Memphis has sneakily been playing a lot better on defense. I think a lot of that is due to having Zach Edey out there and not having John Moran out there. I think helps them a lot, but they still have some issues with the on-ball stuff, bottom 7 pick and roll defense, but a very, very good rebounding team. So I think that kind of takes away the appeal from Ivica Zubac, who's getting a little bit of ownership, but he projects fine. I prefer getting to one of James Harden or Kawhi Leonard, and I personally would set a max one rule those two with their prices being this close. I don't know if I necessarily prefer one over the other. I think they each have upside in this matchup. They both did pretty well last time out. James Harden played 40 minutes in that game, put up a double-double, 53 points, 25 DK points, reasonable price tag for him at 9.2K. Good matchup for a guy that scores a lot in pick and roll, so he's got a lot going for him. And then the thing for Kawhi is that he's been really efficient scoring the ball this season. Took 24 shots in just 29 minutes the last time these teams played, but he did play 35 minutes in a game versus Atlanta where they were winning pretty handily the entire time. So I think we kind of mentioned it the last time we did a show, or at least the last time I was on a show with the Kawhi stuff. We're going to start to see the minutes get up to full, and I think that he's kind of there now. So I feel like 34 is probably the median to floor for him, and then we have upside for 36 to 37 in close games, which this one projects to be. So I like both those guys for those reasons. I think that Collins and Dunn kind of just fill in as last man in type plays. Nobody you really need to get to. Memphis, I think, is a full X out for me. I don't really like anything on that side. You liking anything else in this game?
I don't love this game, but I do like Kawhi. To everything you said, 8K. When he's on the court, he's playing really well right now. So I like Kawhi here. I like the tag. I like the positional eligibility. I don't love the spot, but I don't hate the spot. So I'm in on Kawhi. Zubac, I'm fine with. And I think that's probably it. Harden, just hard to get up to on this slate with the other guards we've talked about. He'll be really, really low owned, I imagine. But just, doesn't project amazing compared to those other guys. Maybe he won't be as low owned as I thought. So I guess Harden is a reasonable pivot off of the Reeves and Mitchell at the same tag. Certainly I like Reeves and Mitchell a lot more, but Harden's got really high upside in his own right. So I put him in the Jalen Brunson bucket, not going out of my way to play them, but certainly in play, especially if you're multi-entering. Harden actually looks a little bit better than I thought based on projections. So, again, I don't like him more than Reeves or Mitchell, but I think he's one of the guys you can pivot off to and feel pretty good about his upside. Kawhi, I like. It's the big three for the Clippers for me. Not really interested in the other guys. And I don't think any of the three Clippers are like I have to play them, but Kawhi is my favorite, then Harden, then Zubac. Memphis, I like the upside we've seen from Edey at times. I don't love the spot against Zubac. I feel like Edey and Zoo almost cancel each other out. So that's why I don't really want to play either of them.
Yeah, that'll be a fun game to watch just to see how those two pair up, because I feel like they're so similar in a lot of ways. Just huge bodies, really good. Well, Edey's really good rim protector and shot blocker, but both really good rebounders. I feel like that'll be a fun game to watch.
Yeah, totally.
Now, I don't think that we're really on the Memphis stuff. Like we said a lot throughout this slate, you got to get everything right. Just feels a little too cute going to Memphis, personally.
The one thing I will say, I talked about it with Jokic before we get to the last game, and I was talking about it with Jokic builds that I think are concentrated. I think just generally builds tonight are going to be very similar and getting off that beaten path. Certainly you don't need to do that with every spot, but you mentioned it a couple minutes ago. Porter, Mitchell, Reeves. I think that's a very logical starting point that a lot of people are going to go with. Then you throw in like Sohan and Laravia.
Yeah.
You only got 3 other roster spots. And we're trying to win tournaments here. So it might be the type of slate where you need to give up some projection at 1 or 2 spots just to get away from the ownership.
Yeah, for sure. I guess this would be the perfect time to plug in the SaberSim stuff, because that will definitely take in the Sims. Will take that into account when you have a guy that's projected 2 or 3 points worse. You normally don't get the top projected team as the team that Sims the best, and that's a lot of that is due to ownership. So something to keep in mind when you are using SaberSim and running the Sims there. Harrison Barnes, I think it's more than that, isn't he?
I think he's 4,800.
Yeah. So unless you're talking
more than
FanDuel. Yeah,
okay.
He must be talking FanDuel, because he's $1,400 more. So we talk about it a lot when the people ask these 1v1s. It's a different build more so than a 1v1. All right, last game on the slate, Indy at Chicago. A lot of injury news on the Chicago side that honestly could shake things up. Maybe not too much. If anything, it will just make guys like Gideon Vooch look a little bit better. But take a deep breath for this one, because we got a lot here. So got doubtful tags on Isaac Okoro, Trey Jones, and Jalen Smith. Kevin Huerter is out. Questionable tags on Kobe White, Io, and Zach Collins. It sounds like Zach Collins is pretty close to returning. As for Kobe White and Io, not too sure. Kobe White, another guy dealing with a calf strain, so it could be something that they proceed with a lot of caution. If anything, if he plays, I'd imagine it's going to be on a fairly strict minutes restriction after not playing most of the beginning of the season, then getting ramped up pretty quickly, and then injured again. So I'd imagine he's somewhat limited. For Io, I believe it's a thumb sprain, so something that if he can play, he's probably not limited too much. If anything, it's just going to affect how he actually plays in the game, shooting and dribbling and all that stuff, because it is his shooting hand. So that would take a little bit of appeal away from him, I guess, if you're kind of looking to that stuff. But for Indy, same stuff as always. They got the Neesmith, Quinn Jackson, Obi are going to be out. Obviously, Halliburton done for the season, but Ben Shepherd is out tonight with another calf strain. So Jarris Walker should step back from the starting lineup and probably at less risk of losing minutes if it were to come from somebody, maybe one of like the Furphy, Garrison Matthews, or Jeremiah Robinson Earl. I do see that Jarris Walker was getting a decent bit of ownership the last time I checked. 22%-ish on SaberSim. So could make the case to fade somebody like that. He's pretty cheap and does have pretty solid upside in a game that should be fast-paced and high-scoring. The last time these teams faced, I was all over it, and I think it was like a 101 to 103 game, just so there wasn't a ton of fantasy scoring to go around. I think that it could turn around here, but the Bulls have looked pretty bad. Defensively, both these teams kind of get beat the same way. 2 really bad rim defenses. The Pacers, I believe, were bottom 7 in points allowed at the rim, and teams are shooting at the rim at the 6th highest frequency. So good spot for a Bulls team that shoots a lot at the rim. And then same for the Bulls defensively. They allow the 2nd most rim points and allow teams to get to the basket at the 2nd highest rate against them. So a lot of the same thing here for Indy. Actually, you hit on this one. I'll go after you.
Yeah, I think from the Indy side, like this is a game, like another one of these games where I want to like it, I think, more than I actually do. I like the Indy side more than Chicago as of right now. That could change if like all these Chicago guys are out. But as of like this show, this moment in time, I think a few guys from Indiana are at least in play. You talked about Jarris Walker, great positional eligibility, wildly in play for me, all formats at 4,200. I don't hate TJ McConnell at 4,700. Don't love it either on this slate, but I think it's a different type of build, especially with all the guards we've talked about. Pascal Siakam, price tag continues to fall a little bit. I never love playing him, but, if this game does turn around, like he's the top piece of Indiana, even though he's the most expensive. Benny Math always has upside. Like, I think all these guys are in play, but none of them are like priorities for me, except for maybe Jarris, just because of his price tag and positional eligibility. The Chicago side is really hard to break down. Like, if these guys are all in, even though they have a bunch of guys out, I don't even love anything here. Like, the price tags are where they should be, especially if Kobe White is in. If he's out, like, he's the main one. If he ends up being out, then all the guys get a boost. Like, they're already kind of priced for him to be out, but still a good spot. So Giddey at 10K, Buzelis at 62, who we both liked last slate. Io, if he's in, if they're both out, Javon Carter at 3,600 will begin to look in play. But like, these aren't guys that I ever love playing. So I don't know, man. Like, I want to like this more than I do.
Yeah. Agree with you on the Indy stuff. I think Jarris Walker and TJ are very much in play for some value tonight. I kind of really like Siakam tonight, and I normally am the guy that's
never on Siakam.
Yeah, I'm normally really against him, but I really
you love big men against the Bulls. I should have known.
Yeah, mainly those wings. Like, they've been getting killed by guys like Siakam. I mean, I don't think that MPJ and Siakam are very similar, but you look at what MPJ just did against them. This Bulls team is lost on defense right now. They look terrible on defense. I really want to lean into a guy like Siakam that the price is coming down. 8.5K is good. And he had a pretty solid outing the last time they faced. I believe it was fairly recently too, maybe less than a week ago. They played on the 29th, played 36 minutes in that game, 49 DK points, fell one rebound shy of the double-double bonus. That would have put him at like 53-ish, which would be, I think you'd be very happy with that at 8.5K. So I like Siakam a good bit tonight. I think Mathurin is okay. Price is getting up there. Going to need really efficient scoring. With the team getting healthier is kind of taking away some of his usage upside. And then for Nembhard, I don't think I'm going to be pairing him with TJ. And it's also a really strong point guard slate. So he might be the guy that I don't get a ton of, which I don't know. I feel okay about that, but I do like the matchup for him a good bit. And then I want to like Jay Huff a lot. It's obviously a great matchup. He's just not separating from Isaiah Jackson enough from a minute standpoint to be super viable. Power forward eligibility definitely helps, and he smashed the last time these teams faced. But you're probably getting 25 max from him from a minute standpoint. So I don't think that I'm going to be prioritizing him as much as I am Siakam and then like Jarris Walker as well. For Chicago, for the most part, agree with you. I think Giddey is kind of in play regardless, but he can only get better. Same thing for Vooch, strong center slate. So he'd probably be another guy that you're overlooking. But with Kobe and Io missing, they will definitely run a lot more of their offense through Vooch, and it's a really good matchup. The rebounding, the Pacers are one of the worst rebounding teams in the league, so he could get some upside there, but they're also terrible at packing the paint and defending the rim, so good scoring upside for Vooch. And then, like you said, Buzelis, he would get a little bit better. A little scary there because he failed in a big way, and Billy Donovan has a really, really short leash for him. So I'd be a little nervous about playing him because I'm not expecting 36 minutes. I think that's within the range of outcomes. And if he does do that, he could really smash. I'd want to get some of him, assuming some of these questionable tags were to be out. But I agree with you. It does make it a little bit tougher to get to these guys. Even if you take away Kobe, like the prices are pretty fair on those guys. All right, so that will do it. This would be about the time that Hamwich would ask for a play of the day from me. if you have anything, I know that we got our cores and stuff on the side, but this is a free show, so we'll give the people what they want, and I'll put you on the spotlight a little bit. Give me a sub 9K player that's going to go off at low-ish ownership.
I'm going to go way lower than that. It's a guy we
Okay.
kind of talked about in passing, and this is kind of under the presumption he starts. And with his minutes last game, I think it's a possibility tonight. Bobby Portis. About the cheapest we're going to get him at. Late start time for that game. I don't even think he gets a ton of ownership if he starts. And if he does, he has easy 10x upside at 5,400. So Bobby Portis is my answer there.
I like that 30 minutes last game against Detroit. I feel like this matchup is fairly similar.
That was like after they got shellacked in the first half, too. And I think he was
Yeah.
a big part of their comeback.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't. It's weird how Doc just refuses to give him a ton of minutes because he's clearly a pretty solid backup behind Giannis. So I definitely agree with you there. I think Bobby Portis is a guy that could very, very well go overlooked tonight. So I like that call. For me, it's gonna be Kevin Durant, assuming that ownership stays somewhat low. I don't know exactly how high it would get to if and when the Sengun news comes. I hope that it comes post-lock because I'm going to be building as if he's out, and this game is at 8 p.m., so you won't really have a ton of ways to pivot there. So I'm going to say Kevin Durant. I think April 1K with the small forward eligibility is really big. That's going to make it really easy for me to play 3 of KD, Reeves, and Donovan Mitchell. I like starting with those guys for sure. But all right, that is going to do it. Appreciate you again, Matt, for moving some things around. Hopefully the back feels better. We get you back on the normal schedule next week. But hopefully everybody has a good night tonight, a good weekend. And last thing, got to plug the SaberSim show. Me and Sheets going live as soon as the last game for NBA Lock, so right around 8 p.m. Eastern. Once we get our late swaps done, we'll be going live, talking through the main slate on SaberSim. And that's going to be a members-only show, so you got to be a member. If you want to sign up, then head over to shipitnation.com and check out the deals we have. But all right, good luck tonight, everyone. I'll see you later.